Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited about our live tonight because we're talking with Atia Brown, and she's a CPA, and we're going to talk about hiring our kids. It's right before Mother's Day, so we're the Thursday before Mother's Day. So I thought this was a good topic to bring. Like, how can we be, really utilizing our children around Mother's Day, so they're not just, taking everything from us and not giving anything back. So we're going to talk about hiring our children and how I try to hire my children as well. So I'm going to kind of detail that for you guys as well. All right. So Atia, I want to let you introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, okay. So my name is Atia Brown. I am the owner of the Savvy Accountant Firm, where we are savvy at solving your tax issues. We are a full service CPA firm where we specialize in all things tax.
Okay, excellent. And I saw a presentation that she gave for like business people and how to optimize their taxes and not to pay too much. And it was so excellent. I just asked her, kind of begged her to be on my live tonight. So first first question I want to ask, how old do your children need to be? Can I hire my children at any age, or is there an age that they have to be?
So that's a great question. And we do get that question a lot. But the what you should be asking yourself is, what are you hiring your children for? So that's probably the most important question, more important than age, because most of the times there's not going to be an age limit because you're hiring your children in your home-based business. So most governments stay out of family business when it comes to that. They state that if you're hiring your child, because you can hire your children for modeling and they can be a baby. So it's really depending on what your goal is. What are you hiring them for? What is your business? And is it something that makes sense for your business? So there's some rules when it comes to hiring your children, but there's not that many. One of them is you cannot hire your children for like manufacturing jobs. So it doesn't really matter the age at that point, because that's going to be, a regulated industry. But if you have a home-based business and you have children that are aged appropriate to do certain tasks, then you can hire them. Storing items, cleaning up, helping you clean up your office, social media. There are a lot of things that your children can do in your business, data entry. So really, it's going to depend on what you have them doing, and does it make sense for them to be doing that?
Okay, very good answer. I'm gonna play a video, Atia, because before I hired my children, because so I have this, YouTube business. So I said I'm gonna hire them to do videos for me. And I have another channel, and they do videos for that channel. So I said I'm gonna hire them to research the video. Then I'm gonna pay them to actually, film the video and that sort of thing. So that's what I hired my children for, but I had to interview them first. So I'm going to show this video. Hopefully it will play well. I'm going to play this video of me hiring my children.
You should hire me because I am broke, do not require a lot of money, and I like to edit.
If you could be any animal, what would you be and why?
I would be a killer whale because they're my favorite, and they hunt together in packs. So if I'm hurt, I'll have people to protect me.
What's your strength? What are you good at?
Editing.
Okay. So you want to be an editor? You want to edit my videos?
Yes.
What are your weaknesses? Like specifically getting along with your sister? Getting along with your other employees?
Bo.
Do you feel like you can get along with your sister?
If I need to.
Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
Rich.
What's your salary requirement?
Anything over the minimum wage.
Okay, that was my son Atia, who is now he's 11 now. I think when we filmed that video, he was 10, and so
that was a good video.
Now he said that he has to make above the minimum wage. So let's talk about a couple of things. Do I have to have a business to hire my children? That might seem like very simple, but do I have to have like a real business to hire my children?
Yes. So you definitely have to have a legitimate business. And when I say legitimate business, you have to be making money, incurring expenses to generate that money, because your goal is to generate a profit. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have an LLC. You can have A business can be your sole proprietorship that you do out of your home. It's just under your social security number, but you still file a business return on your tax return. You file a Schedule C for that business. So you do have to have a business. Otherwise, there would be no area where you're hiring your children where you can pay them and get that deduction. So you do have to have a valid business.
Okay, so I have a valid business. It doesn't have to be LLC. Now, what are the tax benefits? So why is this like a good thing to do to hire your children? What are the tax benefits of hiring them?
So that's a great question. So the real tax benefits come, and there's like several, because as the business owner, your business is going to get a valid deduction, because if you're hiring the child for a legitimate job, you have a job description, you pay them correctly, like you have payroll set up, it gets paid to their account. So you're going to get a deduction for the business. So that's one bonus. It's going to reduce your taxes that you have to pay because you're increasing your deductions, and thus you're going to be reducing your net income. So it's going to be a benefit for the business. For the child, it's going to be a benefit. And you can look at this multiple ways. So the child is now going to have earned income. So they're going to be filing a tax return for their income, but that is going to open the door for them to now be able to open a Roth IRA account, because
let's hold on that, because I'm going to talk about like making your children millionaires. Okay. So we're going to talk about that second, but how much of a deduction can I take every year from paying my children?
So this is where a lot of people on social media, they talk about a magic number. Let's break down what that number represents. And while you'll see that it's not the only amount you can pay. So whenever you're filing a tax return, the government gives every tax filer what they call a standard deduction. So you can either have the standard deduction or an itemized deduction. For single filers, which is what most children are going to be, so we'll look at that number. The standard deduction for 2023 is going to be $13,950, I believe, or $13,850. I'll find the exact number, but it was $12,950, and I think it's $13,850 now. So that's the amount that the government says, we're going to give you this deduction. It's going to apply against your income. And then once you apply that deduction, then that's going to give you your taxable income, right? So that if that number is that $13,850, if you pay your child $13,850, they're automatically going to get that standard deduction. And now their taxable income is going to be zero. So they're not going to have to pay any additional taxes on that money that they earned. So that's where that number comes from. So that is not that doesn't mean that that's the only amount you could pay your children. That doesn't mean that that's the maximum or the minimum. That's just telling you when you like what that number represents for, if you can look at it as your break even, where you'll pay them that amount and they will have zero taxes to pay, and you'll get a deduction for up to that amount. So when I say that's not the only amount, if you have a child that's 17 or 16 and they're helping you do different things, and you decide that they can actually earn a little bit more than that $12,000 because they work with me every single day during the summer and weekends during the school year. So their salary might be a little bit higher. So if you decide to pay that child $20,000, that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to. If they have a legitimate job, that's what you guys agree that a reasonable rate is. You would just pay them $20,000 when they file their tax return. Their income would be the $20,000 less that $13,000 for the standard deduction. So they would only pay taxes on that difference. And so that's why I say there's not only one number, but if we're talking about a break even where you want to get the maximum that you can get without them paying any taxes, then that's where that standard deduction number comes in.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. So if I want to make sure they are not going to incur any taxes, I want to stop at that, that standard deduction of about $13,000. But I could pay them more, but then they may incur some taxes after that.
Exactly.
Okay. So, and a lot of people, so if they're making, say we start paying them $13,000.
Yep.
Can they then, because a lot of people say this, now you go pay for your braces. Now you go pay for your clothes. Now you pay for, your extracurricular activities. So I'm kind of, I'm paying them, I'm getting the deduction. Now I don't take it out of my own pocket for all of their expenses. Now I'm taking those expenses out of their account. Like, go pay for it yourself because now you have money.
Yes, that's definitely what you can do. Because think of it, they are now employees at a job. So they got their paycheck and they can now technically pay for things. So they will have their own debit card and they can go pay for items. So you guys can say, now that you have a job and you want to do all of these extracurricular activities, you're able to do that because you have the funds to pay for it. So that's their disposable income. They're able to pay for things with it now. So that's one of the benefits of hiring your children.
Okay, so that's smart. So everyone, thank you guys for joining me. We got Corey on. Thank you, Corey. Jojo, go ahead and put any questions in the chat because you have the advantage of having a CPA here that can really help us with this strategy. Kendall says, hello all. Diana says, hello, Shahida. All right, so thank you guys. Wendell says, this should be very teachable. It's going to be a teachable moment for you guys to take advantage of this situation. So we've answered a lot of questions, the tax benefits, LLC, and I think we kind of answered this. There's no minimum or maximum. Do I have to, like my son said, I need to make above the minimum wage. Can I pay them whatever, or do I have to pay them the minimum wage?
So it's going to depend on your state, but for the most part, there's no limit that you have to pay them because it's a home-based business, right? This is not them working in like an off-site for you, because then that's going to open the doors to minimum wage, who you can have on the premise, what age can they be working. This is for really home-based businesses. You work your business out of your home. So there's no real regulation of what the minimum wage is, like all of that stuff, because it's in your home. There's one state that I've researched so far that actually has, even if you hire your children, that you have to have workers' compensation. So there was actually a case where a child, I think they sued their parents for something. So,
like, don't be suing me.
Yeah, I believe it's Washington State, if I'm not, it's somewhere on the West. And I believe that's the only state that I know of so far from doing my research that has to actually have workers' compensation when you hire your children, which,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids sue me. They got to get out the house. If you're that grown, you're not living with me.
So for the most part, the benefit is that you don't have to withhold payroll taxes. So when you hire a normal employee, you have to withhold, the Social Security, Medicare. You don't have to do that when you hire your child. So that's another tax advantage that you're going to have, is that you don't have to be responsible for some withholding those and remitting that to the government because you're hiring your children, as long as they're under 17 in your home-based business.
Okay, very good. Question answer. I'm going to play when I interviewed my daughter now. She's not as money hungry as my son. So let's go ahead and play that.
Because I'm honest, a good worker, and I like working with people.
If you could be any animal, what would you be and why?
I would like to be a dolphin because they're calm.
What are your strengths? What are you good at?
Decorating and art.
What are your weaknesses? What is something that you're not really good at?
Cleaning up stuff.
Okay, like your room?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
At NASA, looking at astronomy.
All right, what are your salary requirements?
I just need to get some money.
All right, if I pay you, what will you be doing with the money?
I will save it.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure interviewing you. Is there anything else you want to tell me so I can make my hiring decision?
Okay, so if you hire me, just don't make me clean anything up, okay? That's it.
Okay, so you can see there are different personalities. She definitely doesn't want to clean anything, but you could pay her whatever. My son's like, you gotta pay me. I need some money. So they probably don't need to be working together, right? So they're in like separate wings of of everything. All right, so let's talk about the millions, because I put that as like our thumbnail for this live. Go ahead, you guys, and put any questions in the comments, please. Ms. Moses says, "I love this. Thanks, ladies." Go ahead and put all your questions in the comments. All right. So somebody says, "I love these videos." Yeah, they're good. I'm gonna talk to you about some problems I have in the hiring. All right. So the plan is, you talked about a lot of good things that we pay them. Now they can, basically you're writing off all the money that they could potentially, cost you as children, right?
Yeah.
All of those expenses, their sports, their braces, their clothes, their school activities, they can start paying for those things themselves. And essentially it's kind of a write-off for your business. But let's talk about how they can make millions. You talked about a Roth IRA. And I'm going to tell a quick story. My first job was at Publix. And Publix, for those of you, depending on what coast you're on, Publix is a supermarket in the South for the most part, I think. And my first job was at Publix. And at the time, my mom had a Roth IRA. And so her investment advisor came to me, and I was 16. And he said, "Well, do you want to open up a Roth?" And I was like, "Well, how much money do I have to spend on that?" And he said, "Oh, at least $100 a month." And at the time, I probably was making like $300 a month. And I was like, $100? You're not getting $100. And I so regret not doing it at that time. But at a 16-year-old, that was a lot of money I felt like was taken away from me. But had my mother said it, because she didn't know, she was like, oh, not a big deal, you know, you don't have to do it now. But if my mother said, Shahida, hey, I'm making you open this Roth IRA, I'll match it, I'll give you put in 50, I put in 50, something along those lines, I probably would have done it at that time. Because, you know, pretty much we listen to our parents. It's Mother's Day, right? If my mother said, you're going to do this, I would have done it. So I regret that, because if I started then at 16, you know, I'm, you know, 40 something now, where would I have been, right? So talk about that, the opportunity for your children. You know, my children are 10 and 11. Where would they be like at 40 years old if I opened up a Roth for them now?
Yeah, and that's one of the huge benefits of hiring your children, because you hiring them now gives them earned income. So when you pay your children, you know, allowances or whatever it is, because we never got that, but when you pay that, that's just an allowance. That's not earned income. If they happen to have, you know, rich grandparents who give them a lot of money and it sits in an account and they earn interest, that's not earned income. That's just interest. So they cannot open a Roth account with those funds. So now that they have a job, they're actually able to open a Roth account. And what a Roth account is, it's going to be a retirement tool. So you would put the money in, you would invest it, and that was a financial advisor that came to you, I'm assuming. And because it's a vehicle that's going to be compounding interest, imagine when a 7-year-old is going to start, by the time they hit retirement age and they can use those funds, and it's going to be growing tax-free, it's going to accumulate, because compounding interest is going to be working in their favor. The time is going to be working in their favor. And so they'll have all that money when they hit retirement age because of something that they did when they were younger. And so that's the beauty of hiring your children, because now they actually have earned income that they can do stuff with. As far as how much it can grow, that's a financial advisor question, but I can tell you that it's definitely an account that you would want to start with your children as soon as you can. They can contribute. I believe the limit is still about 6,000, might be 6,500 now per year. But that's what they can contribute. So it's not even going to be, if you do pay them that 13,000, it wouldn't be the full amount. They would be, you know, half of it would go towards that, and then half can go to their extra stuff that they need to pay for. So that's definitely something that, you know, we know what we know. And I'm sure if your mother knew that, she would have been like, you need to do more of that tool at that time.
Okay. Yeah, I froze for a second, but I definitely get the point. Like I said, you said, she didn't know, I think she knew it because she was doing it for herself, but I don't think at the time she knew the benefit of doing it as a younger person. Or she definitely would have told me to do it. So so what I've done with my children, like I just started this last year. I was like, I'm going to hire you guys. I did little interviews of them. I got them those t-shirts. If you want to buy those t-shirts, they're in the chat, you guys. So I bought them those little intern t-shirts. But what I found was, and we're going to talk about the documentation, and I have a question, okay? So we'll get that. What I found was I have to document everything. I'm not trying to get audited, right? And so what's good about mine is that they're in the videos that we produce together. So I can prove to like the IRS, hey, they did this video, they did that. But working it in their schedule has been difficult. So my goal is for this summer to really say like one day of the summer when you're not in camp, you're not doing anything, you're going to do these videos. It may be 8 hours a week or something that you're going to plan these videos, film these videos. So then I have that documentation. What do you recommend for documentation of your children's, you know, their job, their work?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it really depends on what they're going to be doing, but you want to make sure that you get in the habit of documenting. Like you cannot just be like, yeah, I paid my child $13,000 and it just happened to all have to get paid on December 20th. That's not going to be sufficient. So you want to make sure that there's a job description. Like you said, it's probably going to be every summer, 8 hours a week. And this is going to be what you guys need to do. And then you'll pay them every 2 weeks or something. So something like that. It doesn't have to be extensive. It just has to pass the test of, is this legitimate? Or were you just trying to get
like scam the IRS?
Exactly.
Right.
So as long as you have something in play, I think that is sufficient. You have like, you're going to have that time schedule. So that's going to be something that I think is fine.
So I'm going to pay them. And I said I was going to write them a check. Then they take that check and they deposit it in their account.
Their account. So
their account.
It has to be their account. And it has to come from the business to their account. So it can't come from mommy's account and then be like, well, this is for the work you did for the business. So
okay. So just
that's
make sure
what you
you
want to
document in that way. And then if they open the Roth IRA, that Roth IRA is open from funds from that account specifically.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. We have some questions that have come in, you guys. Let's see. Lisa says, just to be sure, did you say that the child is 17 and older? I would need to deduct Social Security and the other deductions that come out of a check. So you're saying the child is 17
Over
and
17,
older.
so 18.
Yeah.
So 17 and under, you don't have to withhold the payroll taxes and the Social Security. If your child is an adult, then it's going to just be like hiring anybody. So you're going to have to run it through payroll. They're going to have their payroll deductions, and that's going to be because they're an adult now. So it's not going to give you the same benefits of hiring your child. So it's actually 17 and under, or if they're 18, then that's when you got to start doing all the regular stuff. So if they're over 18, then you're going to just hire them as a regular employee. Some of the other things to consider, which might be going too in depth for this type of interview, but when they're over 18, now is when you need to consider what job are they actually doing for you? Are they an employee? Are they a contractor for your business? And how does that look? Because if they're a contractor, depending on the task that they do for you, and if they do this for anybody else, you pay them as a 1099 versus as a W-2 employee. Then they have their own expenses that they have to account for. Or if it's really just working for you, or your employee, then yeah, you would have to pay them on a W-2, and it would have all of the payroll deductions.
So 17 and older is much easier than it's 18 and older.
Yes, 17 and younger, you mean?
Sorry, 17 and younger is much easier than an adult child that you're hiring. Okay, good question. You have some more questions. Keep on putting your questions in the chat. All right, Kat says, I heard something about a job description for the children. Is that for the IRS if they request it? Not sure where to post something like that. Like, what is the purpose of the job?
Oh, yes. So that's it's for your files. So it's basically to make sure that they're doing something legitimate, that it's not just something made up. It's not that you post it on like Indeed. It's that you have something that's going to be a job description. So it's not that you can say, oh yeah, I did hire my child. And then when the government checks, your child is 3 years old. And then you say, I was hiring them to do filing. That probably doesn't make that much sense. And that wouldn't fly. So it has to be job description that is, sufficient for their age, that it's reasonable. And it's really for your records. So it's not being posted anywhere as if like it's an open job. It's not that type.
Yeah. So just in case you're audited, because everybody, you can do not anything, but you pretty much can put anything. And it comes to where I need documentation.
Exactly.
If the IRS asks me questions or audits me, that I want to make sure that stuff is, there and available. So you want to start out the right way. When you're doing it. I mean, you may never get audited, right? And they may never look at it, but just in case, you want to make sure you have that documentation.
Yep.
All right. So Miss Amon-Ra she put my little link. So if you want those mom's intern t-shirts or mom's real estate assistant for those real estate agents, go ahead and grab those. They're on the site. All right. So Lady Luck has a question. Go ahead and put the questions in. Does this work for an online business as well?
Yeah. So I don't see why not. So when you say an online business, like I'm assuming you just have like an e-commerce store that you run from your home. Like this is made for like home-based businesses. So you're doing your job out of your home. So I would imagine you have an online business. You most likely are going to be using the home office deduction. So that's typically like an indication of when you can use this, because that means that you're working from your home. So an online business makes sense. You might have to figure out what they're actually helping you with. If you work only from one laptop and that's all you do, there's nothing else to do, you might just have to figure out what they're going to help you with. But
right. And then, like I said, mine is an online business. They're making YouTube videos for me, not for this channel, but I have another channel. So they help me with those videos. So I'm paying them for those of you that just got on. I'm paying my kids for researching those videos, recording those videos, editing those videos. And then, we kind of go on from there. We have those t-shirts. They're modeling those t-shirts. So we have pictures with those t-shirts that they're wearing. They do those reels for me. So I pay them for that. So that all of that is online. So there's no physical store or anything that they're doing. But I like the fact that I have actual videos. So I have stuff to back up my job description because they're in it. So just make sure you're just keeping good paperwork. All right. So let's, yeah, some people are saying that they missed the beginning. So good information at the beginning. I think we've answered most of the questions, but we're going to answer the questions that I had at the beginning. So now we're taking all of your questions. Okay. All right. Lisa says, thank you so much for the information. Kendall says, any tips on how to properly document payments your child received from neighbors for a lawn care service? Now, this is a little bit different, right? Because now your child has a business. They're not working for you. They have their own business. But I guess I'm take your recommendation, but I would flip it around. I would open the business and then have them as one of my employees instead of them having their own business. Would that make more sense?
So yes and no. So you can't really change what is factual. So this sounds like this is the child's business. So what, like, just to answer the question on how she phrased it without trying to tell her to change anything,
Okay.
Your child now sounds like they're a business owner. So you would manage the documents the same way you would any business. My advice would be to get them a cloud-based accounting software. So QuickBooks or Xero, Xero. Make sure that all of their payments and stuff are getting categorized and accounted for on that payroll, on that online accounting software. So make sure that they're recording all of the income, any expenses that they incur. So your child is probably going to have to, purchase lawn care items. Basically, they're going to be running the business. So you want to make sure that that's being accounted for correctly. And yeah, so now they're business owners. And depending on the way you set this up, it sounds like they're most likely a sole proprietor. And so that's going to be reported on a 1040 with the Schedule C. And so the difference, the issue with Schedule C income versus the earned income from being an employee is that they're going to have to pay self-employment tax. And that tax is outside of income tax. So when we talked about at the beginning that $13,000 standard deduction, self-employment tax is on top of your income tax. So they're going to be paying self-employment tax on their income.
Okay. So, well, like I said,
that's different than what we talked about. But just
different. So either you're hiring them versus them having their own business.
Yeah, this is their business, it sounds like.
I would say for moms, I know she's going to be very CPA-ish. I'm just saying, well, just hire them and take all those other benefits and make it a little bit easier, maybe on yourself. But we don't want to take his whole business from him. All right, but thank you for that question. Orlando says, I need this to end so I can watch the starting point. Give me a second. We're working on it. All right. All right. Questions. Let's see. It says, if using a third-party payroll company such as ADP to process your payroll, how to report your 17-year-old and younger child's information as a new hire where taxes are not deducted?
Yep. Okay. So ADP, Gusto, all of them should know how it works when you're hiring a child in your home-based business. There should be something that basically is going to mark them as exempt, so you're not going to be having to take taxes out. Those big companies should be able to do that. It shouldn't be an issue. You should be able to call someone, a rep, and be like, this is my child that lives with me, and this is my home-based business. And yeah, it should not be an issue for them to do that. That's something that they should know how to do.
All right. Thank you, Bridget. Miss Amin-Ra says, so your 3-year-old child can be a model for the company and that would be okay.
I can't say yes or no. It really depends on your company. If you have a company that would need a 3-year-old to model for them, then that sounds like a valid business deduction. If you I have a CPA firm, I don't know what my 3-year-old would model for me unless I was, directly trying to get the attention of moms. So maybe that could work, but it really depends on your business.
So it has to make sense. So if the auditor comes around, right, and you have some business, like you said, you have a lawn care business. I hired my 6-month-old and I've been paying them $5,000 a month, but what are they doing on the lawn care business, right?
Exactly. So it has to make sense. It has to be valid and legitimate. And that's where a lot of people get caught up. They just try to make something work.
Okay. Well, we got to go along those lines. Lemon says, what about if you have a truck company? The children are 7 and 8 years old.
So a trucking company, you probably couldn't have it where they can help you with the admin side, but there's not much more that they can be doing for the trucking company. So with the trucking company, if you don't have an outside brick and mortar for your office and you do use your home as your administrative space, then they can help you, because I would imagine that a 7 and 8 year old can potentially help with filing and help with different things that you would need done. because you are a trucking company, getting the load, the documents, all of that stuff, making it organized. They might be able to help with that. But that's if you are managing the trucking company and the administrative office is in your home, because it has to still be a home-based business. So if the trucking company is, a big trucking company, and they have an office where their employees and stuff go to that office, then it wouldn't work there, because you actually have like a brick and mortar where you're doing the business out of.
Okay.
I hope that answers.
Good question. Elle says, Atia, is your accounting firm taking new clients?
Yes, we are.
And we're going to have in the description of this video, we're going to have all of her information and a link to one of her classes that she's offering that's coming in the near future for all of you business owners. All right. So let's see. So basically, we're making sure, go ahead and put any other questions that you have in the chat. I want to kind of reiterate some of the things that we said at the beginning. We said that the tax benefits are basically that you can up to $13,850 for 2023. That you can pay your child up to that, and they don't have to pay any taxes, because that's a standard deduction for anyone. You can pay them more than that, but they may have to pay some taxes any more than that. And to make them millionaires, hopefully in the future, you would put some of that money in a Roth IRA where they could start building that as they got older, because they have such a long time. Because a lot of us wait until we're like in our 30s, our 40s to open up these accounts. But like you said, the 7-year-old, the 8-year-old, my 10-year-old, 11-year-old, imagine if they open it now, you fund that. When they get older, that money will be there for them, because they have so many years to have that grow. What do you think? This is an extra question, but what do you think the major mistake that most people make when they're trying to hire their children?
Yep, I can tell you right now. I can tell you several. Major mistake is they don't have a legitimate task for them to do. So I see people paying their children for chores, saying, and like they document that they made up their bed, that they wash the dishes, and that is not what it is. The next mistake is not paying the child to their account. So they make this deduction on their books, but no money left the company to the child. So that's another major red flag. And then another one is paying the child, but paying the child from the parent. So the parents think, well, I just wrote the check to them, but you wrote it from your personal account. So that wasn't from the business. So really, those are like the 3 major no-nos not to do when it comes to hiring your children.
So you had to go clean up the bathroom for 3 hours. Well, I paid them $50 to clean up the house.
No, that's not how
that. Have a cleaning business.
Unless you have and I say that all the time. I'm like, unless you have a cleaning company and they are helping you with before and after photos so that you can use for marketing purposes, like that can make sense. But no, just making up their bed is not going to suffice.
It has to make legitimate sense. All right. So Lisa has a question. Where would I get W-2 forms for my kids?
I mean, if you're using a payroll provider, then that would come from the system. But just like any tax form, like you can generate that. So if you are doing all of this manually, just like you were filing a tax return, if you were filing a 1040 and you didn't have a software, you would just have to get the 1040 document and complete that document. So the same thing with the W-2. If you're using a software, most likely the forms are in the software, and then you're going to print them once the information is populated. But it's another tax form that just needs to be completed. So,
but for clarification, Atia, do I need a W-2 if I'm paying them under that $13,000?
Yes. So you would be paying them as like outside labor payroll. It's always easier to have the W-2. The W-2 is just going to show the box 1 with the earned income, and it's not going to have any taxes withheld. But yeah, I would issue the W-2, because that's just going to make it even more legitimate that you hired them, right? Okay. And when you issue a W-2, just like any other tax form, this is why you want to make sure everything is done correctly, because when you issue any tax form, the government gets a copy. And so the child gets a copy. And so you have one for your records, the government gets a copy. And this is where it comes into play that now you don't have to file a tax return for the child, because the government has a matching system, right? So they're going to be like, W-2A was issued for Social Security number 1234. Your child's Social Security number is 1234, but they never filed a tax return showing this amount. And so that's where you might get some issues, because the matching didn't happen. So you want to make sure that you kind of do everything correctly so that you don't have any issues.
And does that make it easier for you to open up a Roth IRA for them as well?
Yes,
Because
exactly.
you have the W-2 and the documentation,
Exactly.
so you prove they haven't earned income. Okay, I haven't gotten that far yet because we're gonna really organize it this summer to make sure it happens.
Yep.
All right, Lisa says thank you.
You're
All right,
welcome.
I think you guys go ahead if you have any more questions. I think we covered everything. We talked about how you can, this is our Mother's Day special. To make sure that you are taking full advantage of having these children in your house that are costing you all that money. Pay them, make them pay for their things, write that off, and open them a Roth IRA. So it's a win all around. It's a win-win.
It is a win all around.
Win all around. So we're hiring them. We're doing this. And if you don't have a business, probably need to start one. So start a business. The business has to make money.
Has to make money, has to be a real business. You can't just start it to hire them. But yeah.
So it's good to have a business, something on the side that's generating some income. So you're not totally dependent on one source of income, but in that kind of think how your children can help support that business. All right. I want to make sure we're not missing anything. Kat Pryor, realtor, says, would it be the same if it were my niece or nephew and not my own child? That's a good question.
So it's a good question. And without knowing your situation, I'm going to say no. So this is something that's written into law because it's in your household. So if you, in your situation, if you are the guardian of your niece and nephew and they live with you, then chances are they follow the same rules as your child because that's how you are taking care of them. But if they live in a separate household because they have their own parents, then this does not apply to that situation. This is not a benefit that just is going to extend to anybody that's in your family. This is specifically for your household and anybody that's under that umbrella. So your niece and nephew can qualify if that's the situation that you guys are in. But if they're your niece and nephew living with their parents, that's not how it would work.
Okay, so that's a good point because this is for you and your children. Like this tax part of the tax code is specifically for your children, your home-based business. Did they come up with this? Like I know everything's kind of back in the day, like people living on their farm or.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't researched this one to know what brought it about, but that's typically, like I tell people, that's how tax laws are created. There is this real estate tax law that you're probably very familiar with the Augusta rule that happened because there was a famous tournament that happened, and I'm sure the wealthy were like, how can we benefit from this? So if you rent your home for less than 14 days, you don't have to report the rental income, but you get that deduction. So that came about because there was a need. This tournament was really popular. People live on the golf course. How can I benefit from this tournament? So tax laws come up because of situations. So yeah, I will be curious to research why this.
Yeah, I feel like it was probably like during the farming times and that sort of thing. The kids lived on the farm and they worked. And like, how can we pay them and write this off and do all that kind of stuff? We are kind of just learning about. Like, I just learned about it probably last year, and I was like, oh, gotta hire them. Put them to work.
But yeah, you're very right that it always comes up from something. So that's a good guess of how it came about. So that's why it doesn't apply to nieces, nephews, because it would apply to them from their household. So their parents would be able to do that.
Right. So let's all take advantage of these tax laws. They're written for us to take advantage of. So we need to take advantage of it. I'm going to take this last question. I want Atia for you to tell them after this, like how they can reach you and how, just introduce yourself again to the people that are coming in at the end. It says, AMJ says, if I hire my child who's under 18, can I still claim them on their tax return? Yes, that's a very good question.
Yes. So a child can file a tax return because they have money that they earn, and they can still be a dependent on somebody else. So they can still be your dependent, but they still have to file their tax return because they generated income. That doesn't mean that they're not a dependent on your tax return. And so you get that same child tax credit, or I think that's a credit that you're probably asking about. So they can still be a dependent and file a tax return.
So that's another win. So we're going to claim them on our taxes. We're still claiming them as dependents. We're going to pay them and write what we're paying them off in our business. We're going to make them take their money and basically fund their lifestyle. And, we're going to do all, and we're going to open them a Roth IRA so they're millionaires in the future. We're going to do all of that. Okay, 2 more questions are coming in. Sorry, Atia, do you have time?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right. All right. So Lady Luck says, so to be clear, my daughter is 22, has her own home. So will that qualify?
So she's
No.
over 18. So you can hire your child. So this is what I tell people. We are talking about specific tax strategies that can help you save. This doesn't mean that you cannot hire your child and pay them. She's 22. If she, went to school for marketing and you're hiring her full time to be your marketing, your CMO, you can pay your daughter who's 22, $60,000 from your business. She's going to be an employee. She's going to have taxes come out. She's going to file her own tax return and all of that. But she's over 18. So yeah, it's not.
What we're talking about is specific for people under 18.
Under 17.
Under 18, what you can do as young as, if it makes sense, as young as birth, almost, if it makes sense for your business, you can start hiring them in your home-based business. All right. Amber says, good evening. I currently have become a full-time real estate agent in South Jersey. I'm interested in paying my children to assist. Should I start the process by creating an LLC so I can pay them?
Yep. So we cover this. So we are from South Jersey. So hey. So we covered this. So you don't have to have an LLC to do this. If you're as a term of the time, most of the time, but a lot of times you're getting paid through your Social Security, but you're a contractor, so you are your business, and so you don't have to create a separate LLC. New Jersey is one of the states that doesn't allow you. I don't believe brokers can pay in Jersey in an EIN. So you are being paid in your Social Security. So that's your business. So I wouldn't create a separate LLC unless that state allows your broker to pay an EIN, because then what would be the income coming from this LLC? So you just want to make sure that this is part of your business. If you're the business, so you're being paid through your Social Security, that's where you want the expenses to come from. So I wouldn't create a separate LLC unless you're able to be paid from your brokerage to your LLC, because then that LLC has no income coming in, right?
Okay. And let me ask you this, because I know that you travel and you do speaking engagements. Do you go to real estate firms that explain this to them?
Yes, I've spoke at several. I've spoke for Remax. I've spoke for Keller Williams. I spoke for a couple of real estate brokerage firms about some tax strategies that they need to know. And yeah, so I definitely love.
I think you're going to take this whole hiring your kids thing on the road as well.
Yep, I definitely can do that. So yes, we do. So yeah, I do. Real estate has a special place in my heart. They helped me start my business. I've been working with real estate investors and agents for about 6 years now.
Okay. Great. So Elizabeth says, wow, amazing. Thank you for this knowledge. So definitely go ahead and spread this knowledge. Hit like everybody that's on here right now. I think we have 88 people live right now. Go ahead and hit the like button for this so this reaches more people. Definitely. And Atia, tell them who you are, your business, and how they can reach you. And then I'll make sure that I'll have everything in the description of this video.
Sounds good. So my name is Atia Brown. I am the owner of the Savvy Accountant Firm. We're a full service CPA firm where we are savvy at solving tax issues. We love all things taxes, and we just want to make sure that you're not overpaying the government, that you're able to keep your money to do more of the things that you want. And so that means we want you to understand the tax code and how it can work to your benefit. I'm going to be sharing the link. I have a monthly training that's going to be coming up on May 30th, I believe. So you guys are able to sign up for that. It's a free training. And we are accepting new clients. I know somebody asked that before. And so follow me on social media, The Savvy Accountant, across all social media.
All right, let me make sure that comes back up here. So The Savvy, I lost you for a second. Let me close that. The Savvy Accountant, Atia Brown. You can find her on social media, Instagram, all of that. Instagram, Facebook. Yes.
Right. Instagram, Facebook. I have a YouTube channel. It's not as big as this one, but
we'll link that below as well.
Link that below.
Yes, please. Yeah, Corey said, make sure you're hitting the like button and subscribing, because again, this is information. You're looking at these kids and they're costing you all this money, and they could be,
some good use.
A way for you to start building some wealth, not just for yourself and your business, but for them as well. And I'll keep you posted on my children.
That was great. I love those interview videos.
Yes. So thank you so much. I'll keep you guys posted on the channel. I'll keep Atia posted on how I'm doing with the hiring of them and the paying of them. I think my son's going to ask me for a raise pretty soon before he starts to give you more money, right? Yeah. He's like, how much? Like, that was last year's prices. Inflation. He'll probably tell me inflation. I need more money. So, all right.
Right.
Thank you so much, Atia. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And again, we'll have all of her information in the description of this video. Thank you so much, you guys.
No problem. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks for having me.